I live in the East End of Glasgow, the nice part. My name is James Patterson. I'm 39 years old. I believe in taking care of myself and a balanced diet and a rigorous exercise routine. In the morning, if my face is a little puffy, I put on an ice pack while doing my stomach crunchies. I can do 30 now. After I remove an ice pack, I use a deep pore cleansing lotion. In the shower, I use Lynx Africa to get that mix of smelling like a teenager while cleansing the body for 12 hours. I then apply a herb mint facial mask which I leave on for 10 minutes while I prepare the rest of my routine. I always use an aftershave lotion with little or no alcohol because alcohol dries your face out and makes you look older. Then my Palmer coconut butter moisturiser, an anti-aging eye balm followed by a final moisturising protective lotion. There's an idea of a James Patterson, some kind of abstraction, but there's no real me, only an entity, something illusory. And though I can hide my cold gaze and you can shake my hand and feel flesh gripping yours, and maybe even sense our lifestyles are probably comparable, I simply am not there. And welcome, welcome to Psychic Cinema. We're in a new episode. I'm your host, Patrick. I mean James. I've probably written an essay on it. Paul's probably written it. Was it Paul? Was it Paul's seen it in the wrong
Paul
order?
probably watched it in the wrong order.
And you're?
I'm Colin, and I've probably not seen it.
There you go. That monologue has totally threw me, but I managed it, and you know what? We're not going to change it now. How are you doing, Colin, mate? All right?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
I thought that I would throw in a wee bit of a wee bit of comedy in there with the 30 crunchies that I can do, and the links. Oh, that's for the Patreon service. That. So thanks everyone for tuning in and into the new episode. A wee bit of housekeeping before we get started then. So let me see, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok and Facebook with the general Facebook page and the community group that's there. You can watch and listen to us on YouTube and Spotify. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Audible and Amazon Music. We're now up to 152 subscribers. I can't remember if I've had more subscribers from last week, but 152 is
maybe one
more. Thank you for that person. We upturned there, so that's good. We are part of the Podpack Collective. It's a bunch of like-minded indie podcasters who are trying to make a difference in the podcast scene.
Welcome to my friendly game club where everyone is welcome. The podcast where we share, we play, we run and sing. Well, we don't run, but we do sing.
Hey kids, are you looking for a new favourite fortnightly video game review podcast?
Then boy howdy have we got the show for you.
We take a different game every 2 weeks and we review them just like a book club.
You can find us on all good podcasting platforms.
And some of the sketchy ones too.
Simply search for the Game Club podcast and join the club today.
And at this time, a wee shout out as well to our friends at What's the Script. Hope you're doing well, guys. Their last episode, I think, was the Revenge of the Sith, was it? They just released it there.
Reminds me, I've not watched it yet. I'll try and check that out today.
Aye. So they did, before that, actually, they did 28 Days Later, which I'm halfway through. It's a good film, that, so I'm halfway through that now. So I've got a wee bit to catch up on the podcasting, but so if you haven't done so already, guys, give them a wee listen to and a wee follow on the Instagrams and the YouTubes and the Spotifys and all that stuff.
Hello everyone, Chris here, a co-host of the podcast What's the Script. If you're interested in listening to myself and my co-host Craig having a laugh while hosting a movie review podcast, why not give us a listen? We review movies old and new, dropping in fun trivia along the way. We highlight great things in movies as well as not so great things, all in good fun, of course. So if you love your movies as much as we do, why not give us a listen? We can be found on most social media websites as well as everywhere you go for podcasts at What's the Script. Thank you.
And before we kind of crack on to see what you've been watching and things, our previous episodes, so by the time this does come out, Toy Story was one we did last week, and that was one that Colin hosted. We had a wee bit of fun doing that, so that'll be out. Before that, we've done Police Academy, which is done not too badly on all socials, so it's nearly at 300 views on YouTube, and I don't know about the Spotify side of it, but it's doing not too bad. I know we say 300 as if it's groundbreaking, but
You can only compete with yourself.
Exactly. I mean, it's only compete with yourself, so that's it. Before that, because we always go 3 back, what was it before that?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. So
It's funny because although Harry Potter's not done as well as some of the other ones on YouTube, it's actually got the most views on Spotify for podcasters, which is like Spotify, etc. Over the last few.
Aye. So again, it's just different platforms, different ways of actually listening and watching the podcast. So thanks very much, folks, for doing that. If you haven't done so already, check back in the last 3 episodes, and I don't mind sharing them and things on, because it doesn't cost you any money at all. Just a click of a button and it helps the podcast grow. Okay. As I said at the start, this episode is going to be based on a review of American Psycho. But before we do get into that, I just want to kind of find out, Colin, what have you been watching since the last time I spoke to you?
Well, I'd like to expand this a wee bit, if you don't mind, and also mention things I've listened to and things I've read as well, because just kind of media, because I have had a wee bit of a dry spell with certain things. I keep starting watching things and then I'm not committing to them, but I'll give you a wee flavour of some of the things I have been checking out. So the kind of main show I'm watching at the moment is Boston Legal, which I mentioned last week, which is a US well-known legal show, much in the kind of same ilk as Suits. So I've been watching that. I take wee notions to watch certain franchises. So I think I'm going to watch technically as a trilogy at the moment. It's the Puro films, Murder on the Orient Express, etc. So I think I'm going to check them out during the holidays. I have seen them, but I quite fancied watching them. I haven't got any further with Dexter yet, sadly. But you can't have obviously too many shows on the go at the one time. I'm going to do a wee Harry Potter marathon with my stepkids this week, which I'm quite looking forward to. Also, my weekly watch. Season 4 has not been great, to be honest, but Only Murders in the Building, I'm still just watching it just out of habit. To be honest, the 4th season has not been particularly great. And I'm also listening to a Suits podcast every Tuesday, where they're kind of going back through the episodes, but they're also interviewing like the creators and things like that. And in terms of reading, I just finished a book called The Honeymoon, which was about a couple who end up contributing to the death of a man on holiday. And then the book's all about how the repercussions from that. So I quite enjoyed that. And I've started a book called The Traitors. And yeah, I think my main show, Boston Legal, is what I'm going to work with. I'm also going to try and catch up with The Penguin as well. So that's just a wee flavour of some of the things I've been checking out.
It's quite a lot there.
Well, it is and it isn't, because I keep starting films and starting shows and getting distracted and going elsewhere. So I've got like one main show, a couple of things I watch kind of weekly, and then I'm just kind of flitting between different movies and stuff.
All right, good. For me, I'm on episode 10 of season 8 of Dexter, so I'm at the arse end of it now. Nearly finished. Again, it's funny because, like, I know you've seen Dexter, I'm not going to spoil it for you, obviously. But I always remembered these things in the wrong order. So things I thought happened later happened earlier. And it's getting to the last season now, the last few episodes of the whole thing. It all comes back to me. But before that, I was like, that happened in that season. So, but it's just funny the way I think you can misremember things.
Mm-hmm.
I've only seen this once.
A bit like Patrick Bateman.
Maybe. Aye. So really done that.
A lot of similarities between Dexter and American Psycho in a lot of ways.
Well, aye, there is in one way, some ways, and maybe not so in other ways, which we'll come on to. I finished the last episode of Expedition Bigfoot season 5, and no, they haven't found them. They haven't found them, or it. So again, I said in previous episodes that it's not just one male Bigfoot. There's females out there as well. But I was disappointed, mate, to be honest with you, with the ending of it. They found more tree structures and nests and stuff, but what really annoys me about it is when they do these episodes, like these seasons, they always go, at times where, like, right now they're in Northern California, and they always go at the peak of like storms and stuff like that. So they can't really do anything when there's storms, and because they have to evacuate, and so they ended season 5 with an evacuation, and that annoyed me a wee bit. So a wee bit, I don't know. I thought like the previous seasons were brilliant. Do you know what I mean? I thought we were getting somewhere here, and it just, I don't know, it's a bit of anticlimax, if I'm honest with you.
Where can you check it out?
You can get it on, well, what did I say? It was on the Fire Stick. It was maybe like, it wasn't like something like Paramount. It's like an American TV channel. It's not on British TV or anything like that. So it's on that. So I can't remember the channel now, to be honest with you, but aye, that's what I've been checking out. That's the only thing.
You're a lot more focused than I am.
Well, I don't know, man. Like,
I think I go through spells. Like, sometimes I get really into one thing, and sometimes I'm just a wee bit all over the place.
Well, like I said last week, I was on Lost as well, and I was that was in the background. But it's getting to the point now, like, I want to watch it, so it's no just like background filler stuff. It's like, because I've seen it before, obviously, and I'm like, right, okay, but it's getting to, like, I'm in season 4 of that now, and it's getting to where more questions are being asked, and then kind of delve into more kind of character developments and things. So I want to actually give it my full attention, but I'm going to do that after Dexter, because I'm giving that my full attention now.
Perfect time to watch it anyway, with the documentary coming out soon.
I still haven't heard any of the dates is coming out or anything, no.
Yeah, same. And if you like Lost, we reviewed the pilot episode a few months ago.
We did indeed. The 2-parter. Well, podcast is one episode, but the pilot's going to be 2 parts. So, go back and check that out. You can let us know what you think. Right. Okay then. So let's get into why we're here then. So this week we are reviewing American Psycho. American Psycho was released in the year 2000. It was directed by Mary Harron. The screenplay was written by Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner. The score was by John Cale, adapted from the book and the author Bret Easton Ellis. The cast was Christian Bale, Justin Theroux, Josh Lucas, Jared Leto, Willem Dafoe, Bill Sage, Reese Witherspoon, and there was more as well, but I didn't put them in. So it was a decent cast. Obviously, it was in the year 2000, so a lot of these kind of people are more well known now, as opposed to when it was released. The IMDb score for this film was 7.6 out of 10. Which I don't want to say anything just now about it. When we give our scores at the end, mate, I'm going to touch on that. The budget for the film was 7 million, and it took 34. Now, I had to double check that. It says 34. I'm a wee bit shocked at that, to be honest with you.
Seems quite low, doesn't it?
Aye. I'm a wee bit, right, how come it's only 34? But I think there's it's kind of like Marmite, this film, I think, to a lot of people. But we can go into that in more detail. Right, Colin, then, as we always do, I want to know, your history of the film. So, and you can touch on the book here as well if you want. I'm not going to go into the book in much detail because it's a film podcast. I'm not going to.
Was that a dig at how much of the Prisoner of Azkaban I spoke about?
No. Listen, I mean, I think it's inevitable that we'll talk about the book in terms of how things kind of maybe a little bit different. But I just wanted to go. It's a film podcast at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to, and people might not have read the book. So, right. So when did you first watch it? When did it first come to your eyeballs?
It's one I'd heard of for a while, and it was on my big long list of things I hadn't seen, and I can't remember exactly when I watched it. If I was to guess, I would say last year at some point. I think I had only seen it once actually, before I rewatched it yesterday for the podcast. But despite that, it was one that I did really enjoy the first time round. So it was one I was always going to go back to, regardless of whether we reviewed it. In terms of the book, I bought it out of the local bookshop, and I was really quite excited about reading it. But I couldn't get into it. And you said you had an idea of why you think that might be. So I was wondering if it does match up.
Right. Okay. So I'll tell you my history before, and then we'll kind of talk about this part then. Right. So I seen this maybe around 2003, 4. Can't exactly. I mean, it was at the time. Anyway, it was the time when it came out. Anyway, so it was later on, but earlier than you. That kind of goes without saying. I had read the book after the film because I thought, I quite enjoyed the film when it came out. And I had read the book after the film because you get films like that. And you go, I'm quite interested in that. How was that different for the film? And people say the book's a lot better. Which in this case, there is senses of yes and no. So at this point as well, I'm going to say I did a wee bit of this. So I always talk about that. I know I've written essays on things and different films, and whatever. This is one of the kind of films that I did do some studying on, and I kind of learned about certain themes and what the actual film means. People will think, there's a wee bit of ambiguity around this film. There is and there isn't. But again, it's all about interpretation, which we'll come into. So I have done a wee bit of probably more kind of notes. We always do notes before films and whatever, right? And we can talk about it and that. But I've done a wee bit more than that in terms of, I did things at college. This is what I've done. There was Shutter Island I've done before. I've done Seven. This is also one of them. I've done a few others as well, which I'll keep under my hat in a minute. But so I've got a good take on this. But in terms of the book, I can see why people have shut the book over and didn't want to read it. I'm going to guess that the bit of the book that you closed over was the bit with the rat. You're on mute. You're on mute. You stupid bastard.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. No, it was a lot simpler than that. It was actually, I just got really tired early doors of listening to the really in-depth descriptions of the brands he was using. It works in the film for me, but I just found it so hard to get through, just paragraph after paragraph, just talking about all the different items he was wearing. That's what turned me off it. Right.
So it's just
the over descript. I understand that it's a big part of the kind of the film and the theme, but I just wasn't. I was just finding it a chore to get through, just because of the amount of depth that went into what he was wearing and using, and it works in the film because it's just like said in kind of quick passages. But yeah, that was why I couldn't really get into it.
Right, so you're telling me then that you never got to the bit where they're at then?
Don't you know what you're talking about? No.
So okay. Well, I'm not going to say this here, right?
I might
but
go back to it. I might go back to it.
If
I'm actually
you-
I'm kind of regretting giving it away now, to be honest.
Right, if folk who have read the book will understand what I mean by that, but I'm not going to talk about it here. But if you want, if you haven't read the book and you want to go and find out what happened, go and Google it. Right, it's not for the faint-hearted. I'll say that.
Okay.
So I kind of lost a train of thought here a little bit. So, right. So before we go into the film, right, I'm going to speak about the controversy surrounding the book and the film in certain countries. So, in Australia, it was banned for quite a few months. I think it was maybe doesn't tell me how many months it was, but it was only available for people who were over 18, and it was sold in plastic wrapping, which is a wee bit ironic since anyway. And the film as well. So the film
why was it banned?
just because of the extreme kind of violence to it, which I always say that I'm going to go into this now a wee bit, but the film isn't really about murder, really. Do you know what I mean? It's not about killing people.
I've seen a lot worse violence in other films.
Well, it's not about, I know, but so it was it was restricted. It was 18 plus in some areas in Australia. In the United States, bookstores refused to stock it because the outrage upon it. Never officially banned, but there was bookstores who didn't want to stock it. And see, the thing is, right? See, when you hear of a book or a film that's banned, what do you want to do? You want to go and bloody buy it. You want to go, oh, I see, what's all this all about? So obviously they've kind of lost money in that regard. So I don't know. In the US, it received an NC-17 rating, and whatever that means. Initially due to the graphic sex scene, and it was later edited to an R rating. Canada, again, bookstores refused to stock it, but never banned outright. And then in Germany, the book was temporarily restricted for the violent content, but was eventually made available.
Surprised Game of Thrones ever made it into print or onto the air. If this got banned.
I think since, I know it's bizarre. It's like I mean, the book is like so different to the film. Like the amount of murders in the book anyway for a start, and there is quite a lot of graphic in there. But I don't
This
know.
isn't a book podcast.
Like there's hundreds of like books out there that, or even films as well. Like I think it's a different world we live in now. Do you know what I mean? There's 24 years later, since the release of the film, and the book was released in the 90s. So I don't know, man. Anyway, I'm going to go with a quick synopsis of the film, and then we'll talk about the people who we asked on the socials about it. So, a wealthy New York City investment banking executive, Patrick Bateman, hides his alternative psychopathic ego from his co-workers and friends as he delves deeper into his violent, hedonistic fantasies. So, it was that's that. There was others there. I kind of trimmed it down a wee bit because I didn't want to give spoiler and all that sort of thing. So that's kind of in a nutshell about this main character of Patrick Bateman. So we asked people on the social media, Twitter and all that, about what they thought of the film. So as promised, I am going to give them all a wee shout out. And it's quite a lot. We got quite a lot this week. Probably because it's the films I've picked, Colin. Sorry. Right, so I'll try and go from chronological order here, but I have lost that. Right, okay. So the podcast said, love Bale, but a strange movie. Nostalgia Cast, a Spell podcast said, a great black comedy. The Muddy Dragon 3000, do you like Huey Lewis and the News? Watch It If You Can podcast said, and apparently Bale's performance is based on this interview, which is a gif of Tom Cruise's interview, and I don't know who the interview was meant to be with, but you can see that. I don't know if you've seen that, Colin, but
Yeah, I did look at it. Yeah.
I had read that as well, that he based his performance on Tom Cruise's interview. Whoever it was with at the time, I don't know. We've got Dissect That podcast, Dissect That Horror for the time of year. This movie solidified how incredible an actor Christian Bale is. Truly unnerving and terrifying throughout. It is a movie that affects you in a weird way, making you think about what you just watched each and every time. Which is, I think it's true. Joshua Drake said, entertaining movie. Stu World Order, it's adequate. I didn't love it or hate it. It was just okay. Now, I didn't go into any, our comments on Twitter, but I thought this one was interesting because we kind of want to know why. You can, if you think a film is bad, or maybe not bad, adequate is what he said. Like, so you asked why. He said, honestly, it just didn't stick with me. I watched it once and barely remember it. It was okay. I guess not great rationale. I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Things. It's just, if everybody liked the same thing, it would be very boring. Chat Tsunami said, changed the way I give out business cards, that's for sure. It's funny. But yeah, that was a good scene. Just Football Podcast said, brilliant film with Bale at his finest, great soundtrack, disturbing scenes, enhanced by what don't see, and a great cast. On that note, I have to return some videotapes. And one on Facebook, Paul Parks, one of my absolute favourite films of all time, takes a satirical stab, pardon the pun, at 80s high society in New York, and just a fantastic performance from Christian Bale, which I'm going to go into all that sort of thing as well, like the film satire and all that sort of thing. But that's quite a lot of comments, guys, on that. So thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Obviously, it's what you say on the comments and the threads, whatever, it sparks a good discussion. So hopefully, as we discuss the film, it will kind of come across your points as well. And if you like or disagree with what we say, then you can give us a wee comment on that as well. Right, Colin, are you ready for this then?
Yep. I'd just like to point out there's sun coming in my window where I'm recording, but there's also sun coming in Patrick Bateman's window behind me, so it's like a nice combination.
It's like you're in the room with Patrick Bateman. Don't get too close. Don't get too close.
Better watch my back.
Right, okay. Now, this is the second time you've seen it then, Colin, isn't it?
I think so.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
Right, so I think even after the second time you've seen it, maybe there's still a lot of questions and things around it. Right, I've seen this film loads of times, and like I say, I've already got studying behind it. But I'm not going to touch on every single scene. Again, I want to kind of touch on certain scenes that are, and at the same time highlight the different themes that surround the particular scenes. So the opening scene. Now, I'm talking about the actual opening scene here, right? So as the white background you've got, and what you might think appears to be blood.
Mm-hmm.
As American Psycho, you've probably read, oh, this is going to be about a serial killer. But as the white background, you see it's actually a kind of restaurant. So the film opens with a kind of elegant dining scene. And Patrick Bateman, who's played, by Christian Bale, and he's got his kind of Wall Street kind of buddies there. I say buddies loosely. Where they discuss kind of, trivial things, basically exploring, how well they do about wealth and the status. See, as that's that point in time, how did you find that introduction about with the whole kind of the perfect life, I want to say, regarding, how Bateman, we'll call him by his name, Bateman, appears to be wealthy, and it's all about status.
It's quite an interesting one because he's simultaneously quite interested in that life in a way, because he likes to have like the right clothes and the right business card, that kind of thing, but he also doesn't care for it at the same time, and he obviously doesn't particularly like the people that he hangs about with. He's got particular disdain for his fiance, who's just honestly not that important to him.
I know. No one's really important to him. Well, there's one person I'd say that is important to him.
His assistant.
Aye, Secretary Jean.
Yeah.
Go on to that later.
As I say, he kind of plays the part, doesn't he, with the fancy suits and the healthcare routine, but like underneath, he doesn't really care about anything really, apart from kind of like killing folk.
Aye, he's just. I mean, it's that whole the dining scene, like at the very start. I mean, it's kind of placed in a. Let's say the timeline's all skewed there. Do you know what I mean? It's just kind of been thrown into this kind of dining scene. We're all eating the fancy food. They talk about, what they're eating. It's about appearances. It's about how wealthy they are. It's about how superficial things are, really. Which is important to them, but important to me, no. Do you know what I mean? But it just shows you that they care about, their identity and their status more than anything else.
Mm.
So we kind of move on for that then, because it's a bit of a strange kind of opening scene. But they do. I think this is one of the film's most kind of iconic moments. So as I butchered the monologue at the start, so Bateman's morning routine is meticulous. He goes through his routine, talks about what moisturizer he uses, his ice masks and all the rest of it. But at the same time, he tells you he cares about all these things, about looking good, about being vain and all things like that. But really, beneath him, he doesn't feel anything. Now, as that scene kind of moves, he's narrating it. He's got his mask. He puts the mask on, right, and it's basically he tears his mask off. Which, as he's doing that, he is saying that he's emotionally empty.
Mm-hmm.
See that whole scene about that whole kind of his routine, the balanced diet and things. What did you make of that?
One, I couldn't be bothered with his skincare routine like that. I couldn't be bothered doing that every morning. As I took the same symbolism that you did in terms of the mask. It was obviously just the symbolic of his mask slipping and his true identity kind of coming out. And it was there's a bit he puts cucumbers on his eyes at one point of it, doesn't he?
Aye.
It didn't happen, but I kind of expected them to like just fall out because he was standing up, because then that would be like symbolic of the mask kind of slipping as well.
Aye.
But I think it adds a good bit of humor to the film as well, in terms of the black comedy, because when you see him doing his like morning workout and stuff, and I heard in one of the kind of videos I watched before this, that when he kind of crosses his arms when he's skipping, that was just Bale came up with that himself. It wasn't in the script.
Right. Okay.
So I think it's like, as you say, one of the most memorable parts of the film, but it's also it comes up quite a few times during the film, even when he's like losing it even more towards the end of the film. He's still going through his morning routine.
It's important to him, isn't it? It's a way that it kind of keeps him right.
Mm-hmm. Because there's the video. I'm going to credit the video because actually no, I think removed it. Anyway, there was a good video I was watching, and it said he's wearing red boxers towards the end of the film in the morning because that's when he's starting to like not be able to control himself during the day. But then every other scene before that, he was wearing white.
White, aye. So the symbolism there.
Yeah,
Now I don't, you know, in contrast to what I said at the start, you know, I don't go through the morning routine as the same as Patrick Bateman, and nor have I wore any face masks and whatever. But they seem to be quite difficult to take off, right? No,
I've got no experience of it
no,
either.
no, I was hoping you could give me shed some light on that, but they seem quite difficult to take off, right? So he peels it off in the one go, but again shows the perfection of it. I'm thinking if I've got that in my face, I'm ripping it off and it's coming out in half in pieces.
Aye,
I mean, so if that was to happen, then that would be different symbolism. But he just takes it off in the one go
yeah.
and shows you how, you know, how
He's
perfect
very,
it is.
he's very meticulous.
Aye. So he's well groomed. He's vain, and it's just about him being perfect. And there is glimpses of that all the way through the film as well. Now you mentioned, you know, he didn't really kind of care for his fiancée Evelyn, who's played by Reese Witherspoon in the film.
She's a prom queen.
Now it's quite funny this because he kind of he doesn't really care. He's asked Jane to kind of his secretary to book a restaurant, and he's like, "Is it a romantic thing?" He's like, "No, don't be silly." But that's just his mindset. But to Evelyn, it would be a massive deal. But he doesn't care for anything like that. I'm not going. I know this is the next scene. I don't want to go through every scene by scene, but this is important because what you said, that he doesn't really care about anything else. He doesn't, by one person. But I found it quite funny that he's in the car with Evelyn, and she's just talking away to him, talking away, yap yap yap, and he just, the camera just kind of glimpses to him, and he's got his headphones on, listening to Robert Palmer, and he's narrating at the same time. He's like, you know what? I'm trying to listen to the Robert Palmer album here, and all I can hear is her, you know, yapping in the background, trying to talk to me, which is quite funny because that again shows his detachment from human connection.
Is that Donald Trump's car?
Well, that's the first reference to Donald Trump, isn't it? No, there's two references to Donald Trump in the film. Is that Donald Trump's car? And he goes, "Is that Ivana Trump?" But that's important in the film because again, that's just him about money, about greed. He only kind of wants to kind of no socialize, but he wants to be attracted to these people because they have a power of wealth. Do you know what I mean? So he's got these in his head. So
I've only watched a couple of episodes of Dexter, but it kind of reminds me of Dexter's feelings towards his girlfriend, who's there just to make it look like he's a normal person at the start of the show, anyway.
Aye, no, 100%. He's because this is important because Reese Witherspoon, Evelyn is like, "Oh, let's get married and let's do this," and he goes, "I can't get married. I'm working." And that's the bit where we find out. That's the bit where he goes, "Yeah, but your dad practically owns the company. You can get time off whenever you want." And he goes, "I think you should just quit it. You don't even like the job." And he goes, "Well, I want to fit in," which is him telling you that he knows he's different from different people, well, different from other people, and the only way that you can fit in is to try and appear to be the same and conform with people who are in his company.
It's amazing. He comes across as so charming for a lot of the film, but you do just see the moments where the mask slips, like when he's in the laundrette and when he's at the bar getting served a drink, and he's just he just like switches in an instant and goes off on one.
Mate, honestly, see the bit in the laundrette where he just goes off on one because he kind of get stains out, and he's just he's gone mental. And then the person, I can't remember her name, is it Victoria or something like that, comes in and she's trying to organise a dinner date with him or whatever. And he goes, "All right, I can't do that date, I can't do that date." And he looks at his watch and he goes, "Next Saturday." And he goes,
I can't do that.
He's like, "No, I can't do next Saturday." You see, But see that bit, mate. See that bit where he is talking to her and he's smiling. There's
Mm.
you go back, watch this. There is a second where his mask slips and he's actually like get the look of the stain towards her, as if he's just held him back for a number of minutes, getting him his kind of routine. He didn't want to be talking to her. He didn't want to have any sort of, you know, connection at all. But she kept on pushing it, and just look at his face. He just kind of as if he wanted to kill her. But that was funny, that bit in the laundry, and then
It actually is a really funny film, and it's given me quite a few ideas for how to get out of things I don't want to do. Like, do you know how he's always got a lunch booked with a specific person in 20 minutes time?
aye, I know.
It's
Oh.
he is quite likable though, isn't he? Like you kind of do root for him in a lot of ways.
I know,
There's
I
a
know what you
few-
mean. Mate. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. He's even. Let's get this straight now. He's no a nice guy, right? He's no a nice guy. But I know what you mean when you say that. You're not saying, no, I want Patrick Bateman to kill these people, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He's.
obviously a troubled guy who needs some help.
Aye.
It kind of reminds me a wee bit of the guy out of You as well, and that he is like a narrator. He is quite likable, but he does he does bad things too. I think obviously they're written like that because I think you have to like him a wee bit, I think, to enjoy the film.
I think the narration is important because, like you, not like you, but like the TV show You, he has that kind of narration in Dexter. He's got that narration as well, and obviously in this as well. 'Cause it's internal monologue. Do you know what I mean you can't express how he feels because he doesn't have any human side. He's just telling you, what he thinks at that moment in time. So for characters like that, I think it's quite good because it kind of connects the audience to what he's thinking without showing it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting how that works because if you use the character of Harry Potter as an example, a lot of just film viewers don't like the character of Harry as much because you don't see his inner monologue because it's written in the book, but it's not written as a monologue, it's just written as description. Whereas in these shows and these films, that is the big strength of that. So it's without the imagine this film without the inner monologue though. It wouldn't work, would it?
No, would they work? Because there's just because it's it's a way to grasp the audience attention. Do you know what I mean? So it wouldn't work.
Did you hear who was almost cast as Patrick Bateman?
I was going to come on to that. DiCaprio.
We'll save it then. Oh, you've done it.
No, I'm going to talk about it now because I was just trying to find a way to kind of to slip it in there. But
As much as we both love DiCaprio, I couldn't. This is one of those roles I couldn't see someone else doing.
nah, I mean it's always easier in hindsight, isn't it? DiCaprio was going to do it, but he was told not to do it.
Aye.
He was told not to do it because of the backlash it might come for it. And this what happened to this film as well. When it first came out, it was like people were giving it a bad reputation because of what was in the film without actually seeing the film. Do you know what I mean? So DiCaprio knocked it back. Am I glad he did it? Aye. I think I couldn't see anybody else do this role, really. And I don't know if you were asked to push me who I would put into the role, but Bale's performance is amazing in this.
Bale's famed for his kind of method acting and really embodying the characters. And there was something I heard in one of the videos I watched. It was he met the author, and the author got so freaked out because he turned up for lunch as Patrick Bateman instead of Christian Bale, and the author basically told him to like snap out of it because he was freaking him out too much.
No, I mean, I read as well that he went to Wall Street as well to see the lives of these people, so he could try and kind of mimic it. But Bale was like, see, we got this role. Bale had to again transform himself because he was like, I can't remember which film it was he did before that, but he was like really skinny. And
Was that not more recently we did that?
no, he did it for The Machinist, I'm sure, but I don't know if that was then, if that was before American Psycho or after. He was in a film anyway. He was really skinny, and he was told to, you have Patrick Bateman is like, he's ripped. Do you know what I mean? You have to get, balls of muscle and all the rest of it. And he went away and did it. But it just shows you the commitment to him, because obviously, if you can't, like, if you look forward to Batman, do you know what I mean? Then he worked his ass off to get, to become Batman with how strong he was then. But
he's definitely becoming one of my favorite actors the more I see him in.
Listen, mate, he is good. I mean, favourite actors, possibly, mate. I've not really thought about it. But I think this film and this role goes under the radar for me. There's not enough people who like this film.
It's one that I mention to people quite a lot. I try and spread the word a wee bit.
Aye. Right. Where are we? Right. Okay.
Off on a big tangent there.
No, that's fine. It's all part of the conversation, isn't it, at the end of the day? Right. Patrick Bateman, he's kind of says that he's obviously with Evelyn and things, but he kind of has this on and off thing with Courtney as well. And I found this quite funny because if you look at, let's look at Dexter. Look at his house. It's pretty pristine.
Yeah.
If you look at, I can't remember the guy for you. I don't remember, but
he kind of moved around a lot.
Patrick Lloyd, that's true.
After his murders.
That's true. So Patrick Bateman, his house is absolutely, pristine. Like, there's not one bit of dust at all in his house. Everything's all nice and tidy. But whenever you see his house, it's like that. But he's talking to Courtney, he has a thing with on his, on and off thing with. And what's on in the background when he's on the phone to Courtney, Colin? On the TV. Do you remember?
Oh, is it Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Or is that a different part?
Oh, it's a different part, Matt.
I think you're trying to set me up here, so I'm not going to fall for it. But yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on at one point.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on at one point, you're right. But before that,
is it the videotapes he had to return?
The adult videotapes he had on in the background.
That's the videotapes he had to return.
Aye, another one as well. He just had videotapes to return. That was his way out to avoid any meaningful conversation.
I actually might start using that in everyday life. Can you stay late at work today and I've got videotapes to return?
You should. I would understand. I would laugh actually. Anyway, so she's you speak to Courtney, and the Courtney is he always tells you in his narration that she's got kind of problems and like popping pills and things like that, and he doesn't really know which pill she's on because I guess. So he's wanting to take her out. He tries the restaurant Dossier, it comes up quite often in this film.
Wish we were doing a quiz because I remember that one.
So Dossier is a restaurant apparently nobody can get into because you have to make reservations in like years. Well, I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but it appears to be months in advance. So he phones up Dossier and they laugh at him because but he actually, when he phones up, he goes, it's a wee bit late. I know it's a wee bit late in the day, but you've got a reservation for two, and just laugh at him. You can just imagine what's going through his head at the time, and how dare you laugh at me? But he ends up going to Barcadia because Courtney is so out of her face.
Yeah,
she thinks it's Dossier. And then they're there. But again, I don't know what you thought of this, but his connection with Courtney was perfect for him because Courtney had no human or emotional connection either. Like, no, she did, but he knew that no meaningful conversation would ever happen with her.
I think she was so kind of out of touch with reality, as you say, that there was never going to be like basically he could. She wasn't able to be in like to care too much about the restaurant or those kind of things because she was kind of out the zone.
Aye, and it was in the car actually when Patrick and Courtney were going to the restaurant that he sees that Donald Trump's car. Okay, again, he's not interested in Courtney. He's just looking out. So again, that's one of the highlights of the fact that he emphasises the kind of greed in the yuppie culture, which is what the film's about. Do you know what I mean? He just cares about those things and those things only to make himself look better than other people. So he takes her to Dorsia, or what she thinks is Dorsia, but then she relays that back to her husband, Lewis, and he's like, how did you get, oh, he's like, thanks for showing Courtney a good time. And I'm like, how did you get a reservation in Dorsia? I mean, they're all impressed with that because, again, if you get a reservation in Dorsia, then you are creme de la creme. And I think that was probably his intention. So that, that's one step up the social ladder that he's got than all the rest of them.
Was she married to the guy, or I thought it was
Aye.
her boyfriend or fiance?
No, I think was she married to him, I think. Lewis Carruthers, his name was.
None of the couples in this seem very solid because even at the start of the film, he's like, I'm pretty convinced my fiance's having an affair with so and so. But it doesn't really matter because I'm having an affair with so and so's partner. Do you know what I mean?
At this point, like, they have conversations with one another, and they don't actually know who people are, right? So there's quite a mistaken identity in this film. So, I mean, Patrick Bateman gets called a number of different people through the whole film, and he uses that to his advantage as well. So he knows that he looks like other people in the film, in the office in Wall Street, and we'll come across those in a wee minute. But I want to come on to one of the most famous scenes of the film, the business card scene.
Well, also it comes up multiple times, but I'm assuming you mean like the main.
The main one. The
main one, yeah.
Aye. So I'm going to let you take this one, mate. What was your memory of this, and what did you like about it?
Obviously, it shows just how obsessed this group of friends are with like the kind of status symbols. With that in mind, I think we should come up with a seismic cinema business card. What do you think?
As long as it's got a watermark on it.
Yeah. Because they're all obviously showing off their business cards, and again, the video. I wish I could remember what the channel was. So thanks to them anyway. They mentioned that the business cards weren't actually that great, and that there was like spelling mistakes where it said like acquisitions. It was spelt wrong. They were a wee bit off center, so there was a lot of issues with these business cards. And Bateman's reaction to these is interesting. It's kind of hard to discern whether he's really impressed by them or really infuriated by them, because it's not long after that he like takes out his frustrations on one of his victims after seeing these cards.
Yeah, but what the content on it is no important. It's actually the way it looks.
Yeah,
which is the main thing. It's the way it looks. So it's they talk about the color of it. I mean, to me, new it's white, right? But they talk about eggshell. I mean, it's watermarks and all the rest of it. We could spell our names wrong and have other things. Whatever's on it doesn't matter. It's how it's presented, how the feel of it. Do you know what I mean? That's how that's important to them. It's nothing to do with whether what's on it is spelt correctly. Because
that goes back to the first scene of the film when they were saying the menus were in Braille.
Yep. What did Patrick Bateman do when he looked at the menu?
Run his fingers over it.
Well, he looked at himself. You could see the reflection. He wasn't interested in the Braille. He was just all into looking through the reflection to see himself.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of highlighting the fact that he's his vein and how perfect he looks. That's all important.
I bet you can buy those business cards.
Ah, yeah, I'm sure you could. Aye, but we could I don't know, give somebody a job to get a business card.
Business card competition.
So that's it. But you can see Bateman. You know, he's very competitive. Do you know what I mean? The show highlights the masculinity of it all. I mean, he feels inadequate, doesn't he? But his business card was all right. But as every different business card came out, his kind of monologue, his narration is like everybody's kind of getting better. He's the status symbol, even though it is just a bloody business card. It's tiny, right? But for them, it's the biggest thing. That's that's between that and the suits and the rest of it. The haircuts,
Coasters.
business card, even though it's as small as it is, it's a massive deal to them. And because his business card listing is good, his ego became fragile. And basically, between all his kind of colleagues, we'll call them colleagues, he is the weakest of them and feels disproportionate. So he feels already that you're right, he's angry, he's sweating, you can see it, he's like, he had to remove himself from the situation because he couldn't take it anymore.
Apparently, when they were filming this, Christian Bale could like make himself sweat on demand. You know, some actors can like cry on cue. He could like sweat on cue, and apparently he used to unnerve all the other actors.
Jesus, man, sweating on cue, that's something that's new. He was very good at it. There's a few scenes in the film that he sweats.
I found it was like when it was more noticeable. I felt was like towards like the last third of the film when he's starting to unravel. He looked really sweaty in a lot of the scenes.
Mm-hmm. But that scene, you could tell he was like sweating because he was feeling insecure and all the rest of it. But you're right, he took it out on somebody, didn't he? Who did he take out his frustrations on then?
Was it the homeless guy?
The homeless fella? Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
That's a dark scene.
It is, and I don't particularly like it, mate, because there's a dog in it as well. Don't really see what happens to the
There's
dog.
a cat scene later, which I didn't like.
Aye, so I mean, in the book, he kills a dog as well. But he took out in the homeless guy, Al, his name is, I'm sure. Basically saying again, but it's him, like, because he's came for that meeting feeling very, very fragile. He's got to then find somebody to be better than. So he's went to this homeless guy and he's like already a certain power over him. It's like saying things, why don't you get a job and all the rest of it, and quite condescending and like you're a state, all the rest of it. So it's quite.
I've got nothing in common with you.
Nothing in common with you, and then basically said, "Look at the state of you," and all the rest of it, and he ends up killing him. And then you don't see it, but you hear the dog. I think he kind of kicks it and things, which I don't like at all, because also I've got a wee dog.
But Al's he's so like kind of desperate for food and or money that he actually thinks he's been nice to him at first.
That goes back to what you were saying about how charming he is and things. I mean, how charming he appears to be, but deep down he appears that way, but he's got a darker side to him, And but even then, when Patrick Bateman says to him, things like, "Why don't you get a job?" but he's saying it very, very condescending.
Yeah.
The tone is condescending, but Al doesn't actually hear that. He just hears the kind of nice part, nice he is, and then he kind of meets his demise, doesn't he, Al, and he dies. Right. I think one of the other most important scenes of the film is your screen name.
That's the best. To me, that's the best scene in the film. Well, sequence in the film.
Aye. So, but before that, Paul Allen, like the murder of Paul Allen, right, takes place in Patrick's apartment.
The murder.
Sorry,
I don't know if you can see me because of my green screen, but the murder.
the murder. Aye.
Inverted commas.
So, well, you say that. So that's important. You're saying murder like that. So you
Yeah.
don't think. So you don't think
Well,
Paul died?
I don't know because it depends on who's telling the truth. It depends on what actually happened versus what he imagined. Like, there's a lot of layers there because maybe the lawyer was lying about seeing Paul because he didn't want to have to deal with like his
Like,
client being up for murder or there's different
Well,
things, you know.
stop it now then, and we'll can go into that later on because that's where I think you think there's ambiguity.
I
Okay,
think it's by design.
Okay, well, I'm not saying anything now. So before that, there's a Christmas party, and he's Patrick's there talking to a number of different people from his work, and then Evelyn comes over to him and says something like, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." And he's like, "I've been here for hours. You've not noticed me," which is that's an important line because no one really ever does notice him because he gets called a different name a lot of time. And then even when Portland's talking to him, he calls him somebody else, does he not? And the other person overhears him talking.
Looks around, yeah.
So he looks round. So the whole thing, no one ever knows he's there because he's a very forgettable person. He's no to them, to everybody else in the group, he's no important. So he gets called a different name and he goes to a restaurant with Paul Allen, and then again that's where Havana Trump. He goes to a kind of shitty restaurant and thinks it's quiet. He thinks he sees Havana Trump again highlighting the greed aspect of it all, and eventually they go back to Patrick's apartment. And I would say, thinks he's his friend. Paul Allen's drunk, and then the murder, or in your terms, murder ensues. So talk me through that one, mate. I want you to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, obviously, I think Paul Allen's like making fun of Patrick Bateman, like calling him like a wimp and a loser and all that kind of stuff. And then Patrick goes into the kitchen and he puts on his kind of rain jacket sort of thing.
Is that a raincoat?
He's going to like protect himself from like the splashes of the blood. And then why does he find an axe? Was it just there?
Well, it's part of his killing, isn't it? It's
Aye.
No.
So he's got his.
Sorry, do you notice the axe as well? How shiny it was,
Mm,
so he can look at his reflection in the axe.
yeah.
Focused on that.
And then he puts on. He put on the did he put on the Huey Lewis song in that scene?
Aye.
Yeah. And then it's the bit that just makes me laugh is when he's like dancing along to the music. He's like, yes, it's a raincoat sort of thing. And I think I read that Christian Bale improvised a lot of that moment as well with it, like the dancing and stuff like that.
Aye.
And then obviously he just then takes out the axe and disposes of him, and then drags him uncriminalist. I can't say the word. Drags him into like the boot of the car after that. But I don't know. I think just because that's the first scene that kind of introduced like the music part of it, and then it's probably like the most important scene in the movie as well because a lot of the rest of the film stems from Paul Allen's murder.
Aye. So this scene sequence is one of my favourites as well, mate. I mean, do you like who you listen to the news? He starts to give this review of Huey Lewis in the news. The song, by the way, is called "Hip to Be Swear." It's about he talks about it being about conformity and all the rest of it, which is obviously a link to the work that he's in. But he gives this review of, you know, of the Who You Lose in the News. It's like he's almost kind of memorised it. You know, he says it verbatim, the whole thing, like as if, and he does that all through the film as well. So
Yeah,
when,
Whitney
you know,
Houston.
Whitney Houston and Genesis, you know, with Phil Collins. So again, about just kind of, I say it's just like control dominance over Paul Allen. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, was it Paul Allen that had the big contract, wasn't it, as well?
Mm-hmm.
Line or whatever it was. So again, he was a certain power over him. I did like that scene in the bit when it came out as well. You could see it, you know, from the actual, the blood was kind of pouring out the bag,
Mm-hmm.
and then he puts the body, the bag in a taxi, right, for the first time, and then the two people come over and ask him what kind of bag it was. It's a lovely bag. What kind of bag? And he goes, Jean Paul
Yeah.
Gaultier. Again, no question of that. They just put a body inside the taxi. All he cares about how, you know, what kind of bag's that. Do you know what I mean? Shows it. I mean, it shows a lot of things there. But you think that the person, you know, the behind the counter, the receptionist, or what do you call them in America? The people behind the counters in like big apartments, kind of like bellboys or something like that, would see the blood, you know, across the whole kind of concourse. Nothing said about that. Which,
When the camera turns round to him walking towards the taxi, the blood's actually disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which then throws that doubt, and then like, is it all in his head again? There was quite a lot of stuff when I was listening to some videos beforehand about the fact that quite a lot of brands had like certain demands or didn't want to be translated from the book to the film. Like other characters in the film were allowed to wear Rolexes apart from Patrick Bateman, and there was other brands he was like the suits, he was only allowed to wear them if it wasn't a scene where he was killing somebody. So obviously these brands had a lot of thoughts about how the character and the content of the film would reflect on them. So it was quite interesting to read on kind of who allowed themselves to be in it and who didn't.
Aye. I mean, they're protecting their brand at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I understand that because they don't know how the film is going to play out in terms of, is it going to be a success or is it going to, you know, basically make them lose money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was your favourite sequence then of the...
Yeah, just the bit where he's dancing just always makes me laugh.
Well, that's the kind of the comedy part of it, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
The serial killer aspect of it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, he puts the rain jacket on and kills Paul Allen, and he's like, he says, I'm just going to tell you my favourite quote here. Well, one of my favourite quotes. And he goes, "Try get a reservation at Dorset now, you fucking stupid bastard." Paul can bleep that one out, but honestly, it's just that he says that line a lot through the film. It's just the way he says it and the way he just portrays that is brilliant, man.
I like the one where Norman Osborn is asking him if he likes Huey Lewis, and he's like, "Not a big music fan. I don't like singers."
And before that, we'll come on to that anyway. But so that's the Huey Lewis and Paul Allen done. What happens next, or kind of the next kind of scene would be, he brings back Chin. Well, saying that, no, I found funny as well because he's trying to cover up Paul Allen's murder, isn't he? And he goes to his apartment. He's talking to he's narrating, and he's like, Paul Allen's apartment's a lot more expensive than mine. And he goes, I have to calm myself down. and I get on with it, but he's always calm. He's no panicking in any way, shape or form. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just the way that his portrayal of what, you know, panic looks like is not what we think. So he doesn't panic as much, you know what I mean? So I think it was quite funny that bit, you know, and then he kind of calmly sets up the voicemail on the answer machine to say he's away to London for whatever. And aye, that was good. Anyway, Jean was an important person. Jean's his secretary, and it gets to a point where he kind of, he thought the idea of killing her, but it doesn't. What did you make it? Because he set up for it. He was seconds away from doing it. What did you think of that, mate?
I think his relationship with her was one of the kind of big red flags, and that just the way he spoke to her, like he's like, oh, he was like half being nice, like saying that she is beautiful, but basically saying like, I hate your clothes, you might want to change before we go out for dinner, or don't wear that outfit again tomorrow, that kind of thing. But she is a character you feel quite protective of throughout the film because she is so innocent and she's not really into that lifestyle that Bateman and his friends are into. But yeah, you all signs are pointing to him killing her, especially when he opens up the fridge and you see like the head of whose head was that? Was that the model that he met at the club? Yeah. And it's like one of those like rare bits of, if you want to call it, humanity, and that he can't actually go through with murdering Jean. If you link back to You, which we spoke about earlier, he's got a thing where he never, despite all the other things he does, he would never hurt a child. Jean's kind of like his version of that she's like somebody who's essentially off limits. Even though he says he is struggling to control himself, she obviously thinks he's talking about like a romantic relationship developing between the two, but it's more that he can't control himself at that stage of the film from killing her. But he ultimately doesn't do it and doesn't like follow up afterwards. So it was like a rare, it's probably like the strongest relationship he has with somebody in the whole film.
It's definitely a internal conflict because he has no emotional connection to anyone, but he also knows at the same time that the genes kind of represents a innocence, human connection. The one person he can talk to about things, well, not about things, but just a general conversation with would be her.
General conversation.
General conversation. So she's obviously kind of thinking that he's talking about a romantic relationship, but it's about killing her. And he prepares it all because he's toying with the duct tape as well. And he goes, "What do you want to have?"
It's for it's like, what's the duct tape for? For taping something.
Taping something. I know. And then is that a nail gun he's got behind her head as well?
And then the phone rings.
Phone rings. But I think if he was to kill her, then he would be eternally, isolated. Because that's the only person he can rely on, really. And she
seems like the only person he actually likes at work as well.
Aye.
Or to an extent.
Yep. Exactly. See, like I think now we could talk about Norman Osborn. Because, by the way, Norman Osborn is Willem Dafoe. For those who don't know, he's Detective Kimball, which I always think when I say Detective Kimball, I always think of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Last Action Hero. No, Kindergarten Cop. Sorry. Who's your daddy and what does he do? Anyway, so Norman Osborn, sorry. Detective Kimball. That is your fault, mate. That is your fault.
In my head, I was like, is it Harry or is it Norman? Yeah, it's Norman.
That is your fault. Like, so
he's an icon in the Spider-Man universe anyway.
Detective Kimball, played by Willem Dafoe, comes in to see what's his name? Bateman, because of, Paul Allen's missing. Paul Allen's missing. Stop it, you. Paul Allen's missing.
Just before we go into the Green Goblin, there was the whole thing that Paul Allen's played by forgot his name, but he plays the Joker.
Jared Leto.
Aye, so it's basically Batman and the Joker.
That's
Batman
right.
killing the Joker, which is
That's good. Yeah.
which is quite cool.
Yep. So
Different like versions, but yeah.
So he's in kind of questioning. He questions Christian Bale, Bateman 3 times through the whole film. Don't really see Willem Dafoe that much, but he's 3 times, and it's interesting because the first meeting you see, he almost as if he's trying to blame him, because he's like can I use this a cross examination, and then the second time, he's it's like he suspects him. Well, so I've got that maybe the other way around. There's one where about Bateman's sweating. He's like, oh, right, you know what I mean? So he suspects him, he knows it's him, and he knows he's innocent. So there's 3 versions of the interviews, which I found quite good.
Did you hear the bit of trivia behind that?
No.
So they recorded a version where he knows Bateman's guilty, suspects he's guilty, and thinks he's innocent. But what they did was they recorded them separately, and then they just mashed them all. They kind of merged them all together, so that's what makes it seem that way.
Right. Okay.
So it wasn't all like one scene; it was 3 different scenes kind of mingled together.
Because the way he's questioning him is quite funny as well, and like it's just a cross examination, and he keeps getting his kind of, in other ones, like you say, he's kind of getting his dates mixed up, the people he's way, and eventually at the end, it's like, oh well, we know you were there, but he knows he wasn't there, because again, they don't know who's who in this world.
Is that really realistic though? Like even if
are mixed,
even if people you worked with or studied with were similar, you would know who they were, wouldn't you? It's a wee bit stretching the truth a wee bit.
Aye, but it's just highlighting.
Like, have you ever been in a position where you didn't know people's names that you worked with or studied with?
Aye.
Or confused them?
100%. I've been like working like well, especially at uni anyway, you would be in a group for somebody.
Yeah, I get that. You wouldn't maybe know their name, but I wouldn't like think like you were Lee Thompson or something.
Wonder if we wishes the pod. No, I know, but I don't know, man. Like, I see what you're saying, but I think it's obviously an exaggeration to the fact.
They're stretching it a wee bit to make the film what it is, which I get.
Aye, exaggeration to the fact that the people's names are, immaterial. Do you know what I mean? Also, I could touch on, Patrick Bateman. What work do you see him do in work? Nothing.
Doodles in his notepad.
Doodles in his notepad. He watches Jeopardy or something like that it was. Listens to music. He listened to one time to Christy Burr, Lady in Red, because that's the kind of him killing prostitutes and stuff like that.
I thought the fact that his dad was quite well off in the company, I thought that would become more important than it was. It was kind of only mentioned like once and never touched on again.
Nah. But it probably highlights the fact that this yuppie lifestyle it's more kind of passed down towards people.
Yeah.
People don't have to work to get to places. Well, in the 80s at this point in time, it's like, all right, you're my son, you went to Harvard or whatever. You can just be in there. He does no work. He's in a crossword puzzle, and every answer is meat and bone, meat and bone, meat and bone. Again, he's bored. His work life is boring. It's then thereafter is what interests him and what kind of gets him into wanting to do what he does.
Which is different from Dexter, because Dexter like loves his day job, and it links to his other side as well, whereas Bateman's not that interested in it. I also heard the name Bateman comes a bit from like the murderer. Is it Bate? Was it Bate or Bates?
Norman Bates for Psycho.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock with us.
I've not actually seen that film, Psycho, so that's what maybe one we could do at some point.
Good.
Because there's a bit where he mentions, was it to the secretary? He mentions, was it Ted Bundy?
Aye.
Because
What do
he doesn't hide. He doesn't really hide the fact he's a serial killer. Like he talks about like what people's heads would look like on spikes. He talks about serial killers. He talks about. He says things. He just comes out with things. You know what I mean?
But that's the kind of thing, though. So he's talking about these things openly because nobody takes this guy seriously. It's all a joke. What he says isn't real. Like what he says, people are not taking was because it's who he is. And that's a big factor to the whole film. But that quote of about he says, when I see a pretty girl walking down the street, I think two things. One part wants me to take her out, talk to her, be real nice and sweet and treat her right. With the other part, what her head would look like on a stick. Which is funny, do you know what I mean? But it's just
if you did come out with something like that amongst friends, yeah, people wouldn't seriously think you were like killing people, would they?
No, exactly. Do you know what I mean? So there is that, man. So I've lost where we are now, mate.
We're talking about the interviews with the Green Goblin. Just on Willem Dafoe, you said he's not in it a lot. He doesn't really need to be in it a lot. He's just got great stage presence, doesn't he?
That's it. It's just it's to add more kind of mystery and kind of suspense to it all, isn't it, really?
Mm-hmm.
But when you know he's on screen, you know he's on screen because it's the conversation they have between them both is quite important.
But I think him looking into the murder, it leads to Bateman losing it a bit and starting to become quite sloppy.
Yep.
Because someone's like on his case. It makes you wonder what else he's done in his life before we meet him in the film.
What's that, sorry?
It makes you wonder what other things and who else he's killed prior to the events of this film, because he's 27.
Aye. That's true. So do you want to his kind of breakdown then? I know we can remember. I'd want to go through every scene, but his breakdown.
Well, there's obviously the scene where he goes downtown and he finds, is it Crystal?
Aye.
No, yeah. And then she comes back to the house.
Christy.
Is it Christy?
Aye.
Yeah, and then he invites someone else. Who is the other person he invites over that night?
Oh, I can't remember now.
Anyway, well, things become quite chaotic and violent, and she basically doesn't want to go back again, but then she eventually goes back because he offers her quite a lot of money. And then I can't remember what the other person was called either, but this is the scene where basically Bateman turns cannibal and starts like biting folk. And then Christy runs away, and then Bateman's chasing her naked with the chainsaw. And then there's the scene where like he's looking down the stairs and he somehow manages to kill her with a chainsaw from the top of the staircase, which was quite unbelievable. And then from there he just kind of descends into madness. There's the whole scene with the cash machine, and it's like feed us a stray cat or something like that, and I didn't like that bit, so I'm glad I'm glad in a sense nothing happened to the cat. He's about to shoot it, obviously, and then this woman intervenes, and then he shoots her, and then he gets into a shoot off with the police, and he starts blowing up cars, and then he goes into like the office buildings, and he kills 2 different security guards, and then he ends up confessing to all his crimes on the phone to his lawyer.
Aye.
That's the shortened version of everything that happened there.
So, touch on the scene with the the actual kind of chainsaw. It's also a reflection of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was on the television before.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
So a wee bit of foreshadowing there. So he does turn kind of cannibal when they're having during that scene. He runs again. There's obviously a kind of a funny side to this as well, because he's running about like a maniac, with a chainsaw naked, running about. She's going about kind of. See, you think like if you look at this scene and compare it to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or any other horror film, for that matter, and I'm not saying American Psycho was a horror film; it's not a horror film, but the way that the score behind it all and the way that they act are different to how they act in another film like that, which tells you that it's not meant to be taken serious like a horror film. Obviously, the atrocities that happen in the film are real, but I think it's not to be taken as serious like a horror film. Like so, he's cutting a bit naked with a chainsaw, and laughing and kind of like chasing about the place, and then she's running down the stairs and he throws the chainsaw down. That did seem a bit far fetched. I can understand why people might think that didn't happen. But again, that scene was good. And
Well, before that, she's going through the house and she finds like some of the bodies in the wardrobes and like the severed heads and things like that.
I remember this is not Patrick Bateman's apartment either. This is Paul Allen's apartment. This is no his. So he's his kill zone, his killing place is Paul Allen's apartment because he's not there. Wherever he is, where you think he's in London or he's dead. He's
in London.
He's London.
London, England. that scene reminded me of a couple of scenes. It reminded me a wee bit of Halloween when they're finding all the bodies, and it also reminded me a bit of Hot Fuzz when they find all the golden statue and things like that.
Aye, crusty jugglers. So they obviously I seen he moves. He's at the bank machine. The bank machine says, "Feed me a stray cat." He picks up the cat. Woman cat says, "What are you doing there?" Or whatever she says. He shoots her, and then there's a shoot off with the police. But he blows up the police car. He shoots people. Like it seems a bit again. What's going on here? He goes through the wrong apartment, calls him Mr. Smith, shoots the guy square in the nut, and then goes through the other end. He goes through the revolving door. You see the janitor coming to the lift. He shoots the janitor, and again he comes back out again, and then again he confesses to his lawyer what he's done. Now this scene has, I think this is where the ambiguity kind of creeps in here. For some people. Now, he only had one gun. The one gun had so many bullets. I don't think you ever seen him reload the gun. So he has either got a super gun or he is a master at shooting people. You know what I mean? Like to do what he did, he even looks at the gun at one point and going, "This is like, what is this? This gun's magical." Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what you think here. You can tell me. Do you think this scene was on his head?
Just that scene specifically.
Aye.
I think it was a wee bit far fetched, particularly the bit where he like shoots the car and it explodes. I think I don't really want to talk about that specific scene. I feel like just the wider
Okay, talk about the wider
discussion on kind of what happened. So I'd like to see your take on it. Obviously, when he talks to his lawyer towards the end of the film, and then the guy says, like, "That's impossible. You couldn't have murdered Paul Allen because I met him for lunch twice in London." So there's obviously a couple of things there. One, he's lying about that because he doesn't want his client to become embroiled in like a murder trial. But then there's also the fact that the characters in the group keep getting confused for one another. So maybe he was having lunch with someone who he thought was Paul Allen because he doesn't seem to know who Patrick Bateman is in that moment as well. So you seem to be of the impression that it all happened and none of it was in his head. So I just wondered why. What evidence you felt towards that?
Right, I'm not saying it all happened. I'm saying that the Paul Allen death definitely happened. Right? Now, I can see why people think it's all in his head, because you think, watch this film, this takes more than one watch, I think. And you think back to the blood appearing and then disappearing, you think to the scene where he shoots the police and all the rest of it. But I think that this Paul Allen, that his confession to the lawyer that he's killed all these people, right? He laughs it off because to everybody, Bateman, no, the lawyer. See, when he talks to the lawyer right face to face, the lawyer calls him Davis.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, this guy's, he's like, this is Davis. Patrick Bateman's as a pipsqueak. Do you know what I mean? He's not capable of doing that, and nobody can take him seriously. So he thinks he's Davis, and therefore highlighting the fact that they don't care for each other. Do you know what I mean? He's meant to be his lawyer. He's meant to know who he is, but he's called him somebody different. So friends and people do not matter. All that matters is a social, right? Social class and the life's up upon that. Bateman wants to have consequences. He's confessed to all the crime he's done. He's said everything. He wants the consequences, but that won't come in a world of wealth and status, right? Where they kind of go, what? There's no accountability for those kind of things. So it appears to be that way, and then it could, the other side of that, because what he's saying, it might be all this stuff that's just unraveling in his mind.
So why would the lawyer specifically say that Paul Allen wasn't dead? Was it a case of mistaken identity, or was it just him covering up?
To cover up, because the fact that if this was to happen to Paul Allen, then that he doesn't matter, because what really matters is the fact that this high society, right? It could be MD could have died. It was Paul Allen at that point in time. MD could have died, so they're covering it up. Think back as well. So you remember when he goes to Paul Allen's apartment again, he wears a mask, and it's all getting painted and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He opens the closet door, and where we've seen the bodies before, they're not there anymore. Everything that blood that had the graffiti about yuppie scum and all the rest of it, that's all gone now. That's all away. And it's like, well,
So I wonder who knew the truth then to cover it all up.
Well, look at the woman, the realtor that was there.
Yeah.
So she asked him a question, where did you see the ad? And she prompted him to say, the Times. And he goes, it was the Times. I seen it. And he goes, there was no ad in the Times. And she looks at him and says, you shouldn't be here. So she knows what he's done. And she's telling him to go.
It just makes you wonder who specifically coordinated it all.
They're all in it. They're all in it. I've seen a thing as well that his dad is the one that's coordinating it all, because he's the one who put him there. And where he don't ever see him, he is mentioned. But the once he's mentioned. So Bateman does absolutely nothing in that job. Right, you don't see him working, you don't see him talking to clients. He kids on to talk to a client because Kimball's coming in at the time. Listen to music, does crosswords, he does absolutely nothing. We don't even know if he's good at his job. Right? It appears to be no. He's there because of social class. So his dad may be looking after him in that way. But again, that woman, the realtor, was telling him to go away because he shouldn't be here. She knows that he was here before. This all happened. The whole place has been renovated for a reason. You know what I mean? The deaths of all these people, whether it be Paul Allen, prostitutes, girl next door, whoever it may be, doesn't matter, because all that matters is to get better to become higher, to become more successful, to become wealthier, to be all that. And you can't become wealthier and all the rest of it if you don't have, if that all that's there.
But I suppose that is the thing with ambiguous endings. If somebody only watched this once, they might leave the film thinking it was all in his head, and that's.
No, listen,
I mean, that's their perception.
when I first watched this, I thought it was all in his head as well.
No.
You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I'd done more digging on it and more kind of reading between the lines and seeing different themes and seeing like pauses in it and all the rest of it and going, oh, look, there's different things. It takes, as I said, it takes more than one watch of this film.
But these are the kind of films you love because of the fact there is a wee bit of debate around the ending, like your Shutter Island.
Absolutely. Do you know what I mean? It's all like, I'm not saying that somebody else might have a different opinion of me. That's absolutely fine. Do you know what I mean? And that's how they took the film. You've got a different opinion. You think Paul Allen, you know, that he did go to
No,
London.
I'm not saying that I think he didn't die. I'm just asking the question: why did the lawyer specifically say that? Was it a cover up, or was it a case of mistaken identity, which could also have been the case potentially if he thought one of these guys was someone else, because he obviously didn't know who Bateman was at that time.
Aye.
But I think that's all part of the fun with it as well.
Aye, exactly. And he's admitted to these atrocities. Do you know what I mean? He's like, this is what I've done, but I'm seeing no consequence of my actions. You know, he's on the phone to Jean at a payphone, desperate. Do you know what I mean? He's at the end now, and there's no consequence for his actions, which kind of comes into the last scene. So where he is obviously desperate and all the rest of it. So he's at a restaurant, isn't it? Again, he's talking to them, but he's in a monologue. He talks about, you know, his confession meant nothing. He won't be punished for his actions. Where again, the film may end in an ambiguity. Is he trapped in the world of narcissism? You know how superficial things are.
He was half like relieved to be let off, but half disappointed that he wasn't punished. It was a weird
Well, he has a joke with
part.
he has a joke with one of his, and they call him Bateman at that point as well. And it's a joke with a few others. He's like, I'm rocking and I'm rolling. So you don't ever kind of see that side. So he's half relieved, kind of half guilty. Like he knows he should be, punished for his crimes. But interestingly, with the inner monologue appears and he's talking, he's trapped, and there's a sign at the back of him as well that says, "This is not an exit."
Mm-hmm.
To highlight the fact that he is trapped inside this superficial world and narcissism that he lives in, and yet he tried to find a way to escape it because he was admitting to his crimes, but nobody wants to hear them. So his confessions, are irrelevant. His place in the world is to be consumed with all the conformity, the business cards, the suits, and to try and be better than one another and to be vain. So he is stuck in this world.
It's weird. We talked about it earlier. He did so many horrible things, but in a weird way, you still feel a wee bit of compassion towards him when he's having his breakdown. It's like this guy is like in proper crisis mode. Like he is just kind of looking for that way out.
Aye, there's the idea as well of him having like a multi, personality disorder. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, you see him taking pills at one point, and I paused it again just to make sure that I could, if I read the pill, what the label says on the actual thing it said, it just said his name. It didn't have any prescription or what the drug was. It was just pills. So I don't know what he was taking at that point. It could have been, to something for a potential multi personality disorder or whatever it may be. Him getting called Mr. Smith or Davis or Marcus could be all part of his personality disorder. Do you know what I mean? But again, that's just another theory you could go down the road of.
You ever seen the movie? Is it the one with James McAvoy? Is it Split? Is it called?
It's part of the Unbreakable in the universe, isn't it? It was not bad. It was not bad. It got a bit daft though, I think.
Yeah.
I don't personally like James McAvoy, to be honest with you, but
He's a good Professor X.
well, that's true. Yes, good at that. I'll give him that one. Did you notice the bit at the end where like, there's a sign that says this is not an exit?
Not until you mentioned it, but these are all things I'll obviously see if I had a third viewing at some point.
Aye. It's there. You can see it. It's not as if it's like it's made so you don't see it. It's like
Uh-huh.
it's a close up and you can see it. Again, just to highlight the fact that he's trapped in the where he is now. Aye, that's the end, and it's basically the end credits thereafter. Is there anything you want to kind of mention before we kind of wrap up?
There was one scene we forgot to touch on. It was the one where he follows, was it Louise or Lewis, into the bathroom and he's about to strangle him, but then Lewis thinks that he's like making a move on him, and then he's like doing like the call me sign. And I think there must be a scene just after that where he's so like kind of humiliated and angered by that he commits another murder.
I guess it's the same. He comes in with a bit of a business card. And you all see when he comes in with look at my business card again. They're all everybody, not just Patrick, is enraged by it. Like we've already done the show and tell with business cards. I mean, he's came back in and got another one. He's like, no, I'm having that. I'm just, and he goes his gloves on, and that's right.
No, there's certainly a lot packed in. It's not overly long. It's about an hour 50 round about, I would say.
I think without the narration and a monologue, it would be very difficult to follow. But I think it was done really, really well, mate.
I think it was really fast paced as well. I think there was no bits where it lagged or slowed down.
No, I think it was very well paced, mate, to be honest with you. Also, the 80s music was good in it. You know what I mean? Obviously, we touched on Huey Lewis in the News, Genesis. Whitney Houston, by the way, I think Whitney Houston refused to have a song playing in the actual song. So there was just an instrumental version of it.
Yeah.
And through every one of the pieces of music before the person or persons were killed, there was this review of it. It's almost like just a bit bizarre. But
it's like you actually listen to Whitney Houston. He's like, she's got so many hits, I can't even choose the best one.
So again, it's like it's about satire. I mean, I said it's not really about the killing, really. I mean, this just happens, but it's about the actual narcissistic world that they all live in. It was done in a kind of in satire and all the rest of it. So I really enjoyed it. It got 7.6, as I said at the start, off IMDb. I don't want to go to Rotten Tomatoes, have they looked? But IMDb 7.6, mate. So at this point, I'm going to ask you, what is your score for American Psycho?
Ooh, definitely higher than that, because when I looked at 7.6, I was like, that's quite low for what I would say is the quality of the film. Just obviously, we rank our movies just on the merits of that film alone. So it's a hard one. It's one of the more difficult ones I've had to do. I would probably go 8.5.
Yeah, that's fair, mate, I'd say.
Obviously, I feel bad. Like, the only things I would maybe take points off for is the lack of that clear ending, but at the same time, the film probably wasn't intended to be so clear cut at the end. I usually got a lot of justifications for my scores, but this is just this. I found this one quite hard to score. It is a film I really enjoy. It's funny and horrifying in equal measure. It's got good music, good acting. It is funny. There's a lot of layers to it, and some more layers that you've kind of uncovered today as well. So I think 8.5. I can't really think of any specific things I didn't think were good. But I think maybe just that lack of clarity into what actually happened at the end would maybe lose a wee bit for me. But
Aye.
it's obviously by design as well.
You've always said that. Do you know what I mean? That you'd prefer films that that has a clear ending, and that's
No,
like,
I don't dislike it. Like, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed Shutter Island. I do enjoy films that have that, but I'm clutching at straws a wee bit here because there's not a lot that. And plus, you can't take a scene like the one with the police and say, "I'll take marks off for that," because there is that feeling that it maybe was exaggerated and that he's an unreliable narrator. So, like, to say like a scene's not good when in reality maybe it didn't actually happen would probably be unfair as well.
aye. Listen, you're right, and that's one thing I should have said before as well. He is an unreliable narrator. He is, because everything that he has said, whether we think it's true or not, has been exaggerated. Do you know what I mean? So, obviously, the stray cat thing is in his head. Do you know what I mean? That ATM doesn't actually say that.
I would hope so.
So
And I'll be using card forever.
that was one I forgot to mention. It is unreliable in that regard. For me, 7.6 is too low. I'm going to give it a 9. Purely because of the fact that I've watched this a lot of times, and I've delved into the themes a lot more than what I would usually do. And when I do that for a lot of films I've seen before or I've studied before, it kind of warmed to it a lot more. Like, when I first watched this way back when, I was like, oh, this is all he said. And I think it's naturally a film that you do a bit of digging on. Like, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Or you go and watch a few things or whatever. I mean, people want clarity at the end of the day. People want to know what really happened. Like Inception, for example. What really happened? Did the spinny top actually collapse? Did it stay, spinning? What is real, what's not? I think if a film does that, it has you questioning what happened at the end. I think really it was good. Sure. But would I say 9? I'm going to stick with 9. It's a dark comedy. I can't remember who said it. It is a dark comedy. It's not meant to be taken seriously. Not at all. Again, the main themes of the film's about how superficial things we are. Narcissism. It's something we didn't mention as well. It's like there's a lot of misogyny in this film. They talk about about women in certain ways and how they would treat them and how they look. Didn't mention that. There's that in the film. And by the way, the person who directed this film was a woman. So
she actually said that it wasn't intentional for there to be as much ambiguity as there was. She, in her opinion, it was quite kind of cut and dry.
Aye. But again, that it's like doing beta test or something like that. Do you know what I mean? You go, how does that game or software actually work? How do people interpret that? When I write a story, I know how I interpret it, but you might interpret it differently. That's fine, right? And probably because of how ambiguous people think it is, then it's probably done the film a lot bit a better service. Because people will be intrigued, people will go and look at different things or do their own research and whatever. So, aye. That's American Psycho. I didn't really touch on the quote. I haven't said the quote's half through the film and whatever, but it was
I liked the ones that was "You're just not that important to me" was a good one. The one about I don't like singers, I think, was another one I liked. There's obviously more kind of sprinkled throughout the film, but
I just like the way he says bastard through the film, mate, to be honest with you. Like, it's a bit of ways like he obviously kills Paul Allen, he calls him it, and then later on when he's talking to his lawyer, he goes, "It's not possible to have killed Paul Allen. It's just not." And he goes right up to his face, and it goes, "Why not, you stupid bastard?" just the way he says it, man, it's hilarious, man. It's just brilliant.
It showed Bale's range because he's quite a serious Bruce Wayne,
Aye,
but he obviously has the comedic chops as shown in this film.
that's it, man. He's where's Paul Allen? Where is he?
Well, I think Paul Allen was actually a special guest on What's the Script. I think that's what he was.
Oh, was he? Paul Allen.
You
Well,
can look.
I look forward to hearing that one then for Paul Allen. When we missed the script. Oh, he did well try to shoehorn that one in today.
I know I'm
harder
struggling in
and
the last
harder,
few
isn't it?
weeks.
It's getting harder and
I think
harder.
it's because you mention him at the start, and then becomes less organic when I mention it later.
Right, well, I'll tell you what I'll do then. I wouldn't mention it at the start from the here on in, and then you can shoehorn it in, Faye, and then you can put the wee ad on at that point or whatever.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, thanks for listening to that, folks, and watching. But before we go, Colin, you get a heads up for what we're going to do next week? Are you keeping under your
I'm not
belt?
sure yet. I'm going to think about it today, and I'll let you know by the end of today.
No
So
bother,
keep
mate.
it in suspense. But if anyone has any movies they want us to cover, or pilots for TV shows, or anything like that, or any ideas for rankings, just let us know, and we can factor that in for the future.
Absolutely. I mean, it'd be good to, even if you want to be a guest or something on, you want to come on and talk about a film that you like, then we're happy to we'll try and accommodate that, and we'll be able to talk about
As
your
long as
favourite
it's
film.
a Saturday morning or Sunday night. Saturday night or Sunday morning.
Aye. I mean, there is no show without the hosts at the end of the day. But honestly, like, if you do want to come on, then let us know. We can try and make arrangements for that. Right. Okay. So you'll let me know about the film, so that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for watching and listening, folks. We do appreciate it. Remember to hit the subscribe button, follow us on all the socials, etc. So let me wrap up here. So I'm James. I probably written an essay on it.
You did write an essay on it.
Paul's written it. Paul has watched it in order. Colin.
Paul watched the straight to video sequel, which I've not seen first.
No, I haven't seen it either.
And I have watched this one, but I hadn't until like last year.
Good. So thanks very much, guys. And I am off to return some videotapes. I'll see you later.
Ciao.